Hello everyone and welcome to another community update from Larian. This update goes over some community concerns about the game and their priorities going forward. But before that, I wanted to do a quick channel update. My uploads have been pretty sparse lately, but that's about to change. I was dedicated to completing the game to avoid spoilers online, and so I can make better content for y'all. Regular uploads will start now, and you can expect mostly Baldur's Gate 3 content and a sprinkling of other randomness. Alright, and let's dive into this community update. Alright, so community update number 24, looking to the future. So, just a short little introduction about how they released patch 1 and it released over 1,000 bugs. They said this a few times throughout the patch, or this update, I think. They're pretty proud of that. But they want to go like further than that, of course. So patch 2 is right around the corner. So I don't know what that means in Larian terms. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be soon. They might want to push this out before the PS5 release. So I'm expecting it to be within the next like few days, I think. Just to hit that and then iron out any issues that the patch introduces, so that way they can release a hotfix before the PS5 release. So, and then the big ticket items that they're adding is a more fleshed out ending for Carlight, which is something that we've been asking for. Which, yes, we have been asking for that. It was, I don't want to spoil it, but it was not really satisfying. So if you want to experience that yourself before they patch it, go ahead and complete the game and you'll see what everybody's talking about. So, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a moment to focus on a conversation some of you have been having in the background. Many of the points that come out of this conversation are being funneled into the umbrella term of cut content. So we thought it would be helpful to give you some clarity about that as we think about the future of Baldur's Gate 3. I just want to pause and say that on the subreddit in particular, this has been very strong. People have dug into the data files, the data mining, which they will address like later on. So there has been a lot of discussion practically every day about cut content and future patches to restore cut content. So they're going to dive into that here. So they said that we went through many different threads and reviews with our community teams. And then they managed to truncate the discussion about cut content into 3 topics: performance, bugs, and user experience. We're going to hit performance first, which, by the way, patch 2 is mostly a performance patch. So the city of Baldur's Gate itself is ambitious, which I think we all can agree it is, technically, narratively, and in scope. One of the biggest issues with creating games is that technology is always trying to keep up with your ambition, and here we've been hit pretty hard by some setbacks. We know that Act 3's performance isn't as good as the first 2 acts, but the good news is that patch 2 is bringing major performance improvements to the entire game, but more specifically to Act 3, where you'll feel it the most. I just want to pause and say that I really hope so, because I also play this game on the Steam Deck. And while the first couple acts are pretty good in terms of default performance on the Steam Deck, the city of Baldur's Gate really pushes it down. On the default settings that Larian has set for the game, you get about 15 to 20 FPS. Almost anywhere inside the city. It is really, really bad and almost unplayable once full-on combat breaks out with lots of enemies. So it says that we'll be working throughout September to improve performance in Act 3 further with new technology that's been taking a bit longer to release than expected. I'm kind of curious about this. What new technology? I don't understand. Like, they already have DLSS, so I'm not sure what else they could really implement, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So, bugs. We've seen your reports about Act 3, and we are as frustrated as you are by bugs spoiling the experience. So we're dedicated to solving these quickly, and as you've noticed by our hotfix and patch rollout, we're getting pretty fast. That's true. They have patched most of the big blockers, which they uh, state here. Our approach is that whenever blockers pop up, we either release a hotfix if a patch is not imminent, or include the fix as part of a patch if the patch is imminent. With patch 1, your experience should already be a lot better, with most big issues solved by at least a workaround, which they are. A lot of the really big issues, blockers that people were having, they are resolved now, or at least the big ones. There are still a few where if you do things like really, I wouldn't say out of order because it's an RPG. It's meant to be done in whatever manner you choose. But I guess I could say in a manner that Larian didn't expect or design around. So those blockers have largely been patched. I really haven't heard of too many after patch 1. So patch 2 looks to further eliminate some of the more major issues, including those found in Act 3. Some things that are currently being associated with cut content are actually things like companion reactions to events in the world that didn't trigger. These are being solved. Where there seems to be loose ends, we're tying them up. And this, I definitely believe them here, because if you look at some of the mods that restore quote-unquote cut content, it's adjusting flags, adjusting triggers, so that way they happen when they're supposed to. That content is in the game, but it's not triggering correctly. That's all they're saying here. So it looks like patch 2 is going to resolve a lot of those issues. And then for things that aren't in the game, where there seem to be loose ends, we're tying them up. So I'm kind of excited to do that. I think I'm going to wait for my next playthrough until this patch drops, because I'm excited to see where storylines lead to. Because some of them do kind of abruptly end. So maybe in patch 2, there'll be a little bit more further conclusion tie up with those things. So, all right, user experience. UX covers a lot of things, from how it feels to play the game to how you feel when you're playing it. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game 3 years in early access and 6 years in the making. Many of the building blocks or ideas, tests, or however you want to refer to the junk data that falls outside of what we shipped with can and is being data mined. That's okay, but it's important to understand that not every building block in the giant box of Lego is needed to create the experience we ultimately envisioned and intended over years of iteration. So this is always like a problem in games where people data mine it. This can happen for anything, for Dead by Daylight to Apex Legends, to Overwatch, where people will data mine it and they'll see heroes from Overwatch or other characters or hints to characters in Dead by Daylight or other games like that, and then it ends up not being in the game or never coming, and that's not always a cut content. It could be early in the development of the game where they decided that they didn't want to go that direction, but kind of left those files, those little tidbits of information, I guess you could say, just in the game. They weren't important enough to remove, or I don't know how that all works. I'm not a game designer. I think most of us aren't, but it sounds pretty reasonable to me. So we've seen 3 types of complaints that are being referred to as cut content. The first references content that actually doesn't properly trigger because of a bug. For instance, some of Minthara's reactivity. We've located what's causing that and are working on it. Expect a fix for this soon. This is really big because a lot of people have been posting, quote, justice for Minthara. But there are some things that is actually appears to be cut content. There were some things that were actually promised to us a few video review, or not reviews, but a few man, what is the word I am looking for? Interviews. There we go. A few like video interviews, text interviews with the game designers of some shape or form, and they have stated that you will be able to fully romance Minthara. She's a fully romanceable character. She is not. She is not in this game. She's not fully romanceable. You have a little bit of tidbits here and there with her, but it's not nearly as in depth as with every other character that you're able to romance. All right, so the second is about the epilogue. What's been data mined is not really cut content, but content that we didn't want to release because we didn't think it worked. We're pretty strict with ourselves and our ideas. If it isn't good, it isn't fun to play. If it doesn't make it into the game, or it doesn't make it into the game. One of the reasons why we trimmed the epilogue is because we were afraid the ending cinematics were becoming too long and would detract from the epicness of the experience. But clearly not everyone agrees with us, so we're going to do something about it. We've started expanding the epilogues, and you'll see the first results of that in patch 2 with the addition of a new optional ending with Carlet. It's fiery, poignant, and gives her the ending she deserves. Awesome. I just want to stop right here and say that pretty much the community is pretty unanimous in about the epilogues. The epilogue is kind of short. It's like 5 to 10 minutes or whatever, something around there, about 5 minutes. It is like kind of like satisfying, like, but satisfying in the way that your adventure is finally like done. Everything is concluded in one way or another, depending on how you want to resolve the major conflict, right? That's up to you. But it is like kind of short, and the community is correct on this. I think in that we spend 100 hours, 80 to 120 hours on our first run through the game, or first several runs through a game, and we build a relationship with all these characters. We do all these quests, making sure that everybody is taken care of, or killing everybody, or whatever. However you do it, you want to see the result of that. Like you put all this work in. You really want a good epilogue. Like Mass Effect 2. You're saving everybody, you're doing everything correctly, and then on the suicide mission, if you did everything correct, everybody lives. That's awesome. That's a great epilogue. So this game needs to get a little bit more on that level, I think. All right. So the third is about the things that we actually didn't plan for, and those we once considered but ultimately didn't do. It was always our intention for the Upper City to be epic, cinematic epilogue, bringing the story of Baldur's Gate 3 to a close, but we didn't talk about that in advance because it would have been a major spoiler. We feel confident that there's enough content in Baldur's Gate 3 in the city itself, clocking in weeks-long playthroughs at a time. But that's not to say Baldur's Gate 3 didn't see cuts just as every game. It's just important to know that what ultimately shipped was planned long ago, in function primarily of making Baldur's Gate 3 fun to play, not for us to close development quickly. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game with many release dates, and despite us moving its launch up by around a month, it's still a couple years late. It was late because we grew teams, ambition, and ideas in function of it being the best game it could possibly be. Thankfully, not every idea makes it into the final launch. It wouldn't be the game you enjoy if they did. This is true. This is true of anything that you design. It's you got to stop at some point. If you work in software, if you're a software developer, if you develop anything or build anything like in real life with real tools and supplies and stuff, you build anything. Eventually, you have to stop. You have to actually build and complete the thing for the function of whatever it is that you're building it. Eventually, Larian had to stop to release the game. They can't develop on it forever. They can't implement everything. But with that being said, there was some miscommunication, I think. Not sure, but specifically about the Upper City. a lot of people expected the upper city to be um kind of like the lower city, where you are able to fully explore it. I don't want to give any spoilers. This is not a spoiler video, but it's not quite like that. It's different. For those of you who have completed the game, you already know what I'm talking about here. So I think that they kind of gave the impression that it was going to be like the lower city, and you would have the same opportunities as you would in the lower city. But it's not. It's different, and they didn't quite explain that to the best of their ability. So, and then further on, they're just saying that they're happy for the success of Baldur's Gate 3. That's basically what this means. So what can you expect from us in the future? All right, last 3 things here. First, we'll keep on monitoring what bugs you encounter, and we'll make sure to patch them as fast as we can. Second, we'll start making improvements based on the feedback you're giving us. Baldur's Gate 3 means so much to a great deal of you, and in turn, that means the world to us. We love this game, and we're not done with it yet. We welcome your feedback, your threads, and also your words of encouragement. And then third, here's the one that everybody cares about, that isn't just PR speak for the most part. Wither's Wardrobe of Wayward Friends, which we hope to launch very soon, is an example of us integrating your feedback. This feature allows you to get rid of co-op party members who join your campaign, so you can continue on without them. So for those of you who don't know, who play solo mostly, like myself, if you have people join your campaign, their characters that they create and join your campaign with, they are there forever. They are there forever. And then if you are one of those people who open up your game to anybody who wants to come in and play, or you have a lot of friends who wants to play, and you kind of switch out throughout the week or whatever, their characters are permanently there. It will very quickly fill up your camp. They are there forever. So that's what this is. The Wayward Friends, you basically put them inside of this this thing, and they disappear. So we're also working on the ability to change your character's look once you've started a campaign, though we don't have a release date for that yet. There will be much more you can expect from us, and to come with modding support at some point too, which is awesome. I'm very excited for modding support. I fully plan on covering as many mods as possible on this channel. Lots and lots of mod reviews and gameplay showcases, but I'm not doing that. Excuse me. Not doing that quite yet, because it's a little clunky to get it up and running. For some people, it's completely flawless. They download the Baldur's Gate 3 mod manager and then download the mods, and it just straight up works. It's just fine. But many other people, it causes a lot of headaches. There's crashing, there's conflicts, there's all kinds of stuff. So until the official mod tools get out, you probably won't expect mod reviews from me. But we'll see. So, but I'm very excited to change your character's look. This is something that has been highly requested from the community. I'm pretty sure everybody would appreciate being able to change your character's look. So hopefully, so it says they don't have a release date for that yet, so it's probably definitely going to be after the PS5 release. Probably like patch 3 is what I'm just going to predict. Okay. All right, and then once again, thank you for giving us so much feedback. There we go. That's the picture. All right, and with that, please like and subscribe. Catch you all in the next video, which will be very soon.